Hi, my name's Emma and this is Lauren.
Hiya.
Before we start today's session, this is just a reminder that we'll be doing an upcycling activity at the end, and all you need for the activity is an old t-shirt and some scissors. But don't worry if you've not got those things right now, because you can always complete the activity later on. We've also sent an instruction sheet for the activity to anyone who had signed up for this session, and that will have come through on your email. So, as I was saying, my name is Emma and this is Lauren, and we both volunteer with Greenpeace, and Greenpeace is a group of people who work to protect the natural world. Our mission is to make a greener, healthier and more peaceful planet, a planet where people and animals can live happily together for many years to come. So today we're going to be looking at the fashion industry and what the environmental impacts of fast fashion are. Then we're going to take a look at the solution and what all of us can do to help tackle the problem. And we'll finish with an activity to make something new out of an old item of clothing. You might make a reusable face mask, a tote bag, or anything you want.
So first of all, let's talk about what fast fashion actually is. We're talking here about the culture of inexpensive clothing that is really quickly produced by mass market retailers in response to the latest trends. Fast fashion encourages huge consumption. In fact, every year, 80 billion new garments are bought around the world. And in the UK, we buy more clothes than any other country in Europe. I want you to take some time to think about what the environmental impact of this consumption might be. I'll give you 15 seconds to have a think about this and feel free to jot any ideas down. Okay, so now you've had a think about the environmental impacts of the fast fashion industry, let's have a look at them together.
So first up, waste. The fast fashion industry has quite deliberately developed a model that is very similar to that of single-use plastic. The constant need for us to buy new clothes means there is basically an endless conveyor belt with new clothes being produced, bought, and then discarded after just a few uses, with the vast majority ending up in landfills or being burnt. In the last 15 years, production of clothing has doubled, and at the same time, the number of times a garment was worn before it was thrown out has decreased by 36%. So we're creating more clothes, buying more clothes, and wearing them less. A whole rubbish truck load of clothes is burned or landfilled every single second. This is enough to fill the Empire State Building 1.5 times every day and Sydney Harbour every year. Let's just think about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was 5 trucks full.
So now we're going to look at the link between the fast fashion industry and greenhouse gas emissions. So just a reminder, greenhouse gases are the gases in the Earth's atmosphere that trap heat. They let sunlight pass through the atmosphere, but they prevent the heat that comes with the sunlight from leaving. And that's what's causing global warming. So you might be thinking, what does the fashion industry have to do with greenhouse gases? Well, quite a lot, actually. Textile production, so making fabric, accounts for global emissions equivalent to 1.2 billion tonnes of CO2 every year. That's a bigger carbon footprint than all international flights and shipping combined. In fact, fashion is the world's second largest polluter after the oil industry.
As well as polluting our air with greenhouse gas emissions, the fashion industry is a huge polluter of our water. What do you think this image is? At first, it looks like an interesting pattern, but actually this is polluted wastewater full of hazardous chemicals from the textile industry flowing into a river in West Java. Making fabric generally requires chemicals which need to be diluted through washing and eventually disposed of. The production of fabric is responsible for 20% of all industrial water pollution annually.
Talking of water, producing fabric also requires a massive amount of water. Some fabrics are made from natural fibres, like cotton, which is made from the plants that you can see growing on this slide. Whilst cotton is biodegradable and not polluting to wash, it's a very, very thirsty plant and requires a vast amount of water to grow. According to Oxfam, producing a kilo of cotton, which is enough for just one pair of jeans and one t-shirt, uses as much water as one person drinks in 13 years.
So we talked a bit about cotton, but what about fabrics that are not made from natural materials? We need to think about what our clothes are made from. Think about the clothes you're wearing right now. Do you know what fabrics they're all made of? And do you know what materials those fabrics are made from? Lots of our clothes are made from synthetic materials. Polyester is one of the most popular fabrics. It's cheap, it dries quickly, and it doesn't need ironing. Polyester is essentially fabric that's made from plastic fibers. Just to recap that, polyester fabric that lots of us are probably wearing right now is actually plastic. And what's plastic made from? Oil. And oil is a non-renewable fossil fuel. In fact, nearly 70 million barrels of oil are used each year to make the world's polyester. The other thing about plastics is that they don't break down. So polyester takes more than 200 years to decompose, and plastic microfibers are released every time our polyester clothes are washed. So we've talked about the environmental impacts, but what about the impacts that fast fashion has on people? In order to keep creating new clothes and selling them for such low prices, fast fashion companies have to keep their production costs low. And one of the key ways they do this is by exploiting the garment workers who make their clothes. Most of the clothes that are sold in the UK are outsourced to factories in Asian countries where wages are generally low and working conditions are bad. In countries such as India, China, and Bangladesh, the legal minimum wage is much lower than the living wage, up to 5 times less sometimes. So fast fashion companies can pay workers far less than they need to live with dignity, and they face no legal repercussions. Workers are also forced to work extremely long hours, often 14 to 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And because their wages are so low, they can't really afford to refuse these hours, and most would be fired for even trying. Conditions are also really unsafe in factories. There is little ventilation, and fires, injuries, and diseases are common occurrences. Workers also regularly face verbal and physical abuse. But conditions in Europe aren't actually much better. As of 2013, Bulgaria, Macedonia, and Romania actually have lower minimum wages than China. And even here in the UK, where we have a minimum wage that is much closer to the living wage, there are companies that just ignore this and illegally pay their workers very little. For example, in 2018, a number of factories in Leicester that were making clothes for ASOS, Misguided, and Boohoo were found to be paying their workers only £3.50 an hour, which is less than half the minimum wage for workers aged 25 and over. You may also have seen more recently that some of these same factories were found to be ignoring coronavirus restrictions and forcing workers to keep working in unsafe conditions with little to no social distancing, or PPE.
So we know that synthetic fibres like polyester are unsustainable because of the amount of oil that's needed to make them. But we also know that natural options like cotton aren't sustainable either because of how much water cotton needs to grow. We've heard about the issues of waste, greenhouse gas emissions, water pollution, and human rights violations too. So what's the solution? Well, we need to make and buy fewer new clothes. and that means wearing our clothes more and buying less new ones. You may have seen BAFTA award winner Michaela Cole's campaign with Oxfam a few months ago for #SecondhandSeptember. This promoted buying second-hand clothes, which you can do from shops like Oxfam and Trade and other local charity shops. You can also buy high-quality second-hand clothes through apps like Depop and Vinted, meaning that you don't even have to leave the house. There are many influencers that post about sustainable fashion on social media, giving you fashion inspiration that doesn't hurt the planet. Another way in which we can avoid fast fashion is by mending or upcycling old clothes, like we'll all be doing in a minute. As you've heard, buying fewer new clothes doesn't have to be difficult, and it can be exciting to find items that no one else has or to alter clothes in a way that no one else has. This jumper I'm wearing is from Depop. And Emma, where did you get your jumper from?
I got this one from a local charity shop. It was British Heart Foundation, I think.
So, as you've heard today, our vision is for a world without unsustainable fast fashion. Our call for world leaders is to transform the fashion industry and to stop it wreaking havoc on our environment. We know the fast fashion industry needs to change, and we also know that all of us as individuals can play a part in this change. We can all choose to buy less and reuse or upcycle our old clothes. That's why we're all going to do an activity together now to make something new out of an old item of clothing. Hopefully you've got an old t-shirt and a pair of scissors with you, as that's all you'll need to complete the task. You might also want a needle and thread or any objects to decorate your object with, but don't worry if you've not got those things right now. You can always come back and complete the activity later on.
We've got an instruction sheet that shows you how to make a reusable face mask from an old t-shirt, and that was emailed to everyone who signed up to the session. But please don't be constrained by our ideas. Get creative. You could create a tote bag from a t-shirt, some shorts from some trousers, or even a cushion cover from an old shirt. You can research online to find more ideas for upcycling. And we'd love to see what you create. Send photos of what you make to getactive.uk@greenpeace.org. It was lovely to speak to you today, and we can't wait to see what you make. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.